LCRF.
Go ahead.
LC Step 820. The FTS open test is complete.
Roger. T-minus 25 minutes.
This is Atlas Launch Control at T-minus 24 minutes, 38 seconds and counting. Our launch tonight is dedicated to Skip Mackey, NASA's flight commentator after liftoff in the Hangar AE telemetry facility, who passed away on November 19, 2013. For most of 40 years, Skip called all the flight events of the rocket as they occurred, watching and calling out the data as it came back from all the downrange tracking stations. As far back as the 1960s, following every unmanned launch, the only voice you would hear over the communications channels after liftoff was the voice of Skip Mackey. Skip was the flight commentator for all of NASA's science, planetary, and communications launches. There were many launches back then. Most went well, some went badly, but you could always count on Skip to remain constant, letting you know how the flight was progressing. In more recent years, the video camera set up in Hangar AE would catch the image of a frantic Skip running from archaic strip chart to strip chart, enthusiastically calling out critical rocket milestones for all to hear. Whether you were a cape worker on console for launch or a launch guest at a viewing site, you relied on Skip to tell you how the rocket was performing on its mission and flight into space. Skip had a knack for quickly and accurately translating all of the telemetry data he was seeing into a clear and concise message for everyone to understand. He was particularly effective in describing events that the everyday person could clearly understand what was happening. In other words, he boiled down the jargon, so you didn't have to be an engineer to get it. Yet it was done with an enthusiasm in his voice as he watched the data of critical milestones coming in, and which kept everyone listening for the excitement that he generated in every word. When not working a launch, Skip was always willing to teach new engineers what he knew. He was aware that not everything was written down, so he took it upon himself to teach others. Skip was a boss to some, and co-worker and mentor to many others. He left his legacy with engineers and launch personnel throughout the space industry at Cape Canaveral. A legacy that hard work, intelligence, commitment, enthusiasm, friendship, and love can all coexist and flourish. He'll be missed dearly by his NASA and his United Launch Alliance family. At T-minus 22 minutes, 12 seconds and counting, this is Atlas Launch Control. This is Atlas Launch Control, T-minus 20 minutes, 27 seconds, and counting. In just a moment, we'll hear from our Launch Weather Officer, Clay Flynn, in the 45th Weather Squadron, updating us on the weather for the upcoming launch tonight.
T-minus 20.
Conduct weather briefing on Channel 8 Weather Conference Net.
Roger that. LWO, range coordinator, Channel 8.
LWO.
LWO, please stand by for weather brief.
Standing by.
Following personnel, acknowledge standing by on Channel 8 for weather brief. NLM.
NLM.
LD.
LD.
AFLD.
AFLD.
LWO, please proceed with your weather brief.
Yes, sir. This is LWO on Channel 8 Weather Briefing CC Local. You should have a satellite picture of the peninsula of Florida on your CCTV monitor at this time. And you look to the north, you'll see those clouds streaming from west to east. They should remain to the north through the balance of the window. Likewise, the clouds to the west should remain to the west through the end of the window. Taking a look at the radar, no echoes on the radar. Not expecting any precip. We'll monitor for a very low threat of any type of thick cloud on the radar, but otherwise conditions are very favorable. In terms of the winds out at Complex 41, have trended up just slightly, gusts in the mid-teens, and we should stay in the mid-teens. Actually, you got a gust to 17 knots on the northwest tower, I noticed. So mid-teens through the balance of the window, perhaps upper teens, but that should be about the peak of it. It'll gradually trend up late this evening with the frontal boundary trying to increase the pressure gradient. In terms of the wind direction, wind should stay out of the north for the balance of the count and the window. In terms of our temperature, presently we're at 55 and should lose just a degree or two with the winds coming off the water during the balance of the count and the window. This is multiple balloons, a pretty good agreement between the balloons, and not expecting significant change to the balance of the count and the window. In terms of the forecast, looking at scattered at 20,000 feet, 7 miles visibly, no significant weather. Winds from the north at 10, gusting to 15, really should probably bump that up just a couple of knots for the balance of the window, or the latter part of the window. Temperature 54 to 53, and just a 10% chance of violation that's associated with thick clouds, but it's a very low threat. All LCCs are going, expected to remain, go through the count. No change in the 24-hour delay, and no lightning threat, and no wind threat through the balance of the count and the window. This concludes the weather brief. Pending your questions, sir.
Range coordinator has no questions.
NLM has no questions.
LD, no questions.
AFLD, no questions.
T-minus 17 minutes.
Engine FIV is closed.
Roger.
T-minus 16 minutes.
Initiate fuel fill sequence.
Roger.
T-minus 15 minutes.
Flight control final preps are complete.
Roger.
Primary adjust TechX file adjust _ alpha Victor 043 _ 05 with SDL CRC Echo 42 Echo has been received, verified, and is ready to load into the FTANU.
Proceed with load.
Roger.
This is Atlas Launch Control, T-minus 14 minutes and counting. The final parameters being loaded on board the guidance computer, consisting of upper-level winds and other flight data that the flight computer needs to help steer it through the upper atmosphere as it heads towards space. At this time, we're not working any issues. We're on schedule for a 9:05 liftoff. At T-minus 13 minutes, 36 seconds and counting, this is Atlas Launch Control.
T-minus 12 minutes.
And now coming to us through a downlink from a TDRS satellite is the crew of the International Space Station.
Hi, I'm Expedition 38 Flight Engineer Mike Hopkins of NASA, aboard the International Space Station with my crewmate Rick Mastracchio. NASA and its industry partners are set to launch an Atlas V rocket from the Cape to place the newest tracking and data relay satellite into orbit. As you know, the ISS depends on the TDRS constellation to provide data and video to the world's flight control centers and to allow us to communicate with mission control in Houston, with the public, and with our friends and families.